This is Mike Greb, lead analyst at One Touch Intelligence, and you're watching OTIcast. Today we're welcoming Dan Thygesen. He is SVP and General Manager of T-Mobile's wholesale business. And Dan, maybe you can explain first off what that means. What does it mean to be in charge of the wholesale business?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. So wholesale for us is really the way we bring third-party brands and their value propositions to the life through our network. And so it's really about other kinds of products and services that need access to an amazing 5G network and the capacity that network affords as part of bringing their value propositions to life. So it's our focus to bring as many of those kind of innovative ideas and operating models, commercial models, relationships onto the amazing T-Mobile 5G network.
I mean, I'm sure they get complicated and deals. You have to be flexible. We'll talk about that in a second. But where do you see some of the big innovation with? Because this is this whole area of the business, especially when it comes to MVNOs, has kind of exploded recently.
It really has.
I'm sure you're very busy, but where do you see the innovation happening, I guess?
Well, the really interesting thing here that innovation is super broad in how we think about it, meaning there's innovation in the commercial relationships that we create. So how we work with partners to ensure that their businesses are accretive and drive revenue for them. There's innovation in how we work together to build value propositions. So, talk, text, and data are the core services that this network enables, but there's a ton of other value-added services that layer on top of that we provide. There's also the opportunity for partners to bring those value-added services and interesting things that are part of their value proposition with them to bundle together. So there's a lot of ways to think about innovation. There's innovation related to maybe the distribution and how they go to market. Is it a digital brand? Is it a traditional brick and mortar retail distribution? The value prop themselves, are they innovative in the term of there's a very well-known social media influencer type personality that's behind the brand? Or is it something really creative that you don't see from a value proposition, like, for example, the Mint Mobile example, where they took multiple months at a time and allow people to buy that up front for a lower effective rate? That's those are all sort of examples of innovation. They're all different enough that they're appealing in terms of how we get people to the market, how the end users might subscribe to a value proposition in the market, how the distribution is evolving and diverse compared to other points of distribution in the market. All of those things are, sort of considered as innovation for us.
Actually come to you for advice on some of those things when they're thinking about how they're going to bundle their products, whether it's with broadband or video or anything else. Do they look for any guidance on that, or are they really just like, no, we just want to use the network and we'll do our own thing?
Well, it's pretty broad. I mean, there are partners that come in that have a very, very clear vision themselves on how they want to bring these things to life, and that's great. We don't want to get in the way of that. We want to assist the best we can, do the blocking and tackling, and get them into the market and let them go. And there are other cases where there's lots of questions like, how would you think about this? Or are there ways that we can expedite or accelerate getting to the market? And if so, what do you think about these options? And for us in this world, our success comes from getting more of partners onto the network as fast as possible and shortening the time to revenue. And so that really means that a partner's success is how we claim success. So the more we can do to help with that, the better off everybody is. And like I said, it's pretty diverse. If some partners really want that help and they want that strategic consultative approach, we're happy to provide that. It's something we tend to be pretty good at because we've been in this part of the business for quite some time. But there's others that are very clear and very focused, and they know exactly what they want to do, and they just want us to enable access to the network and get out of the way. And we're completely happy with working in lots of those different kind of footprints.
Obviously, it's not one size fits all. It's going to be all over the map in terms of what people need from you. I know you've talked in the past, I think you've talked about commercial creativity, and kind of being flexible. You talked a little bit about that there. I don't know if you want to go deeper, but what are some of the tricks of the trade in terms of how you approach these things and are able to kind of pivot from one partner to the other? And like you said, they're very different in what they need from you.
Yeah. The creativity piece is really important. I'll be the first to tell you, it's not easy to be an MVNO in the market space today. There's a lot of competition. You really have to do something that's unique and diversified from everybody else in the marketplace to really ensure that you can appeal to a certain segment, build your momentum, gain that traction, and drive success. And so that really means that creativity in terms of either your value proposition, how you go to market, how you appeal to your target segment is one of the most important things. This market doesn't allow people to compete on price alone anymore. 10, 15 years ago, that might have been the case. Today, you have to have something unique. So your value prop has to include, something that's creative enough that the next person or the previous company doesn't have. You have to set yourself apart. So, creativity and the innovation is really the key to how you drive that.
See, if we switch gears a little bit to the technology side, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in terms of innovation there, obviously with the networks. I think it's interesting, for example, and this isn't really a wholesale question, I'll just make a statement about what I think has been interesting about terrestrial mobile wireless is that a lot of people thought there was going to be a big capacity crunch at some point, with fixed wireless coming out, and the FCC didn't have its auction authority for several years, so there weren't new auctions. There are going to be some now. But that hasn't really happened, partly because of all the technological innovation on the network. I don't know if you could talk about a little bit about some of the things there. We don't have to get too much in the weeds and the technical details, but it has been interesting how you've been able to, despite all the partners you've brought on, despite all the uses of the wireless network, of T-Mobile's network, T-Mobile has been able to keep it very robust, and I imagine there's a lot of technology behind the scenes involved there.
Well, there is. Yeah, there really is. I tell you that the key driver is obviously having a spectrum portfolio, but what's really important is how you deploy and how you enable the use of that spectrum, and specifically 5G and our ability to sort of lead the marketplace with 5G as a network technology has set us so far ahead in the ability to maximize the number of partners we bring onto the network, maximize the positive experience that the end user, the subscribers, the people that are actually calling and using the internet through our service, that capability is really a function of 5G, and the efficiencies that technology has enabled have really just put us way out in front to do all those things that you described, like be creative, lean into fixed wireless as a service, like the number one fixed wireless growth provider in this country, leapfrogging ahead in many cases of cable companies to provide broadband to the home. That's essentially enabled because of 5G as a technology and the way the amazing engineering and network teams here have deployed the spectrum. So that's been a big, big piece of it. Going forward, if you think about how 5G enables, sort of creativity and innovation, we've talked about it a little bit before. Network as a service will be another really interesting sort of go-forward component for us. 5G, and specifically the ability to operate a standalone 5G core and standalone 5G network, enables you to create opportunities for your customers and your partners to treat that network like a programmable platform. So, historically, things like APIs were consumed for activating and adding minutes and renewing your plan as a subscriber. Now we're allowing people to actually modify and moderate their own user experience by way of those APIs. You can really pick and choose, the attributes that define your experience more than just, hey, I have talk, text, and data available to me now. So I think you'll really see us lean into that. And again, those are things that you need, like slicing, for example, is a pretty good example. You need a standalone 5G network to bring those kind of products and value propositions to life. And again, because of the decisions that the leadership teams at T-Mobile have made and the way that the engineering and network teams have deployed this 5G technology, we're in a really great spot to enable those kinds of opportunities for our customers and our partners.
We're getting a little into the weeds, so you can keep it kind of layperson language, but explain network slicing and why that's important for a partner.
Yeah, absolutely. So the ability for somebody to sort of control, their own experience on the network, slicing is what allows that to be done. It's a way to take an experience and define it by a number of different network attributes. So you could, for example, prioritize the use of certain applications across the 5G network through a slice. And it's a little bit hard to understand what that means until you think about the real life situation. We had a couple of great examples recently. The F1 Grand Prix that takes place in Las Vegas every year, we create a slice of the network and we design the attributes of the network within that slice to prioritize point of sale service. So, everybody comes into town. One of the most important things for everybody who's a vendor there who's trying to sell services is that every time a customer swipes a credit card, you need the certainty that that credit card transaction is going to go through. So we prioritize by way of creating a slice and prioritizing that application on the network. We make sure that above all other traffic, that credit card transaction goes through. You hear us talk about that in the PGA, the WPGA. We do some stuff with sailboat races. There's a lot of really, really cool broadcasting is now pushed over 5G. A lot of really cool examples of how being able to really articulate a specific use case for a specific period of time and consumption by way of these APIs on a slice completely changes someone's experience on this network.
The unique thing, right? You mentioned the 5G standalone network, because everyone says they have a 5G network, but it is a unique thing to say that it is actually standalone. And I know that there are other carriers that are moving toward that, but I believe that for a while, maybe still, you guys are the only one, right? Is that right?
Yeah, it may be that there are some parts of the nation that other carriers have, some implementation that's sort of standalone like, but I think we're just so far out ahead of it. To have our own standalone core, have our own standalone RAN. It's the thing that you have to have in order to utilize slicing, for example. And anybody that doesn't have those network attributes or that technology deployed, when they talk about, creating slicing, they're sort of faking it. Like, you can adjust QCI, you can try to prioritize differently, but you'll never be able to get to that place where you can, define an actual behavior or user experience for a very specific application or a very specific cohort of your subscriber base. That really requires standalone 5G as the fundamental sort of baseline to be able to then layer on top those products and services.
It's really interesting.
And we're lucky. We're in a great place. I mean, it's not luck. It's due to a lot of hard work that the people at T-Mobile have put into it, but it's paid off really well.
I mean, maybe you could give a few examples, because you alluded to this earlier, but just the variety of types of people you're working with these wholesale agreements all over the map in terms of what they're doing with the network. I mean, maybe you have a few interesting examples of.
Well, sure. So the consumer MVNOs, like most people are very familiar with those because they are fairly well known. Mint Mobile, Ultra Mobile, Tello is another one. These are customers that are taking advantage of the opportunity to be on this amazing network now that is broader than ever before, deeper than ever before, and with a lot of the recent press, we're the best network out there. We're the largest. We're the fastest on the 5G. We're the only with the 5G standalone.
You just moved up to number one, right? And the most.
Well, I mean, yes, yeah. We've been number one in terms of growth, market capitalization globally, and now we've taken the number one network position in the U.S. as well. So there's a lot of things that many years of hard work are really starting to pay off in terms of the return on those investments. But it's certainly broader than just MVNOs. It's enabled a marketplace where companies that had maybe never really thought about wireless services as something that they offered, now, because of the way the network is designed and the technology stacks work in unison, we can appeal to a lot of different companies that are super interested and willing to add wireless services as an adjacency that may have never thought about that before. And by the way, they don't have to become an MVNO to do that. Banks, for example, now are super interested in finding out ways that they can bring wireless propositions to their banking customers that help their customers, do their banking in a secured fashion or deepen that relationship with their banking customers. We see universities starting to think about, hey, what can I do that helps bring a wireless proposition that really fits sort of that fan perspective, if you're a hardcore college fan and you want a college or university branded mobile product that really ties into life on campus or the things you would expect as part of being an alumni. So it's fairly broad. You see a lot around social media. Obviously, there was a lot of success in the marketplace with Ryan Reynolds and the Mint Mobile brand. I tell you that as much of that success that came from Ryan's amazing ability to market the company also comes from the amazing team that was put in place to operate that, the Ultra and the Mint teams. But the impact now of people that are well known, have a lot of followers on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, that social presence has opened up, a completely new segment of the marketplace, and they've created a model of followers that are in the millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, and those followers are super comfortable transacting with those brands and those faces. And it's really easy for them now to leverage a wireless proposition as part of everything else that they're sort of interacting with and creating, that relationship with their own followers.
So much. I mean, you got to tell me again, why is it so much easier today for somebody with a few million followers to do their own, say, MVNO versus 10 years ago? There've always been famous people who could have done this, right? But is it just that you have made it easier for people, or cheaper, or just more like flexible? What is it?
I think it's all those things, Mike. There was a time when if you wanted to be an MVNO 10 years ago, you had to piecemeal every single part of the ecosystem, and it was very composite. This industry's come a long way, and some of us have figured out that the easiest way to get more people to the network and the fastest way to get to a return on that with time to revenue is to enable a lot of those things as a package. So, we created, for example, some turnkey solutions like our Why Now platform. It's a managed service stack that has all of those composite sort of features and functions in one place. So as somebody who's interested in creating value by enabling their customers to get access to the network, you don't have to go piecemeal all the moving parts to actually stand up the business. In many cases, that entire stack is ready and waiting for you. What you really need to do is be good at sales and marketing and nurturing the relationship with the customer base that you already have. Everything else is taken care of for you. And historically, those were the big impediments and the big cost barriers. Like, it takes a lot of time to figure out, how do I choose a customer service? How do I choose a BSS? Who's going to be my, device and insurance, back end and logistics company? Like, those are all things that take time and potentially RFPs, and you've got to go through this great long process. And we've removed a lot of those as obstacles now for companies that are just interested in finding a way to sell more things to the people that like to buy from them.
And you mentioned some of the bundling that's happening out there. I mean, that is really interesting. You bundle wireless with anything now, right? I mean, because
you really can.
It's so easy to set it up.
Yeah, look at the cable companies. They've had great success with bundling, their home to the home fiber service, internet service, cable TV. You see, lots of things outside of that, over-the-top applications. Obviously, at T-Mobile, we have a great relationship and a great value proposition through things like Netflix and Hulu and Apple TV. But that's just the beginning. I think as more brands realize how easy it is to get involved in adding network services to their overall portfolio, the things that you're going to see that roll into the bundle, it's infinite. It's going to be a really exciting time.
Yeah, it is. I mean, in these streaming services you mentioned, I mean, they have millions and millions of subscribers. Why not add a wireless component? I mean, would you? Are you ready and willing to talk to them on that?
Yeah, absolutely. When can we get you signed up?
Exactly. Well, what are some of the? You're talking about a lot of the areas of big innovation that have happened here with these agreements, but where do you see the holes? Where do you see the things that still need to be fixed industry wide? Things that need to be better.
Yeah, I think there's always opportunity. Even when I talk about the way we've enabled a managed service, a technology stack, there's still a lot of pieces that partners need help with. Payment vendors and having to negotiate terms with payment vendors is tricky. There's still some parts that I think we can lean into and just help close that gap between the things that a partner has to do that may be outside of the technology stack. So there's an opportunity for us there. It's very Un-carrier sort of model for us on the retail side. Un-carrier is a proposition around how we remove pain points, and we make being a customer that much easier. And I think we think about it the same way from a wholesale perspective. How can we make it just screamingly simple to get to the network? You take the technology piece for the most part, you consolidate that into a turnkey proposition. That eliminates probably 70-80% of the hurdles and the obstacles. But there's more things that we can do, I think, in terms of how we enable third parties to come and be part of, someone else's value proposition. Like, again, the Netflix example, that works really well with T-Mobile and Magenta and the retail offer. We're really interested in finding ways to create other value-added services as part of our wholesale portfolio that we can use to make introductions to our MVNOs and partners that want to sell, so they don't have to necessarily go out and find the things to bundle. We'll provide them with things that might be super appealing, or we'll help them negotiate those deals to get scale as part of bringing things to market. I think there's still an opportunity for us to, continue to get better at that as more partners come to us with, more interesting and more creative kind of operating models.
Sounds like really what you're going toward is just, this idea of just making it, you're getting closer and closer to just making it seamless for the customer. Like, make it easier and easier and easier. And we will help you with this, this, and this. We'll help you bundle things, whatever you need. And maybe some, like you said, don't need that or don't want it. But there are more and more that do, especially somebody who has nothing, who's never done any kind of telecom service. Might be just, like you said, a famous person who wants to set up an MVNO or something like that. So it's interesting that you have all those different things. Where do you see, I mean, it's changed so much in the last even decade, but where do you see, it's kind of one of my final question, where do you see things going in the next 3 to 5 years? I know it's impossible to tell. We've got AI out there. We've got all kinds of crazy things happening where stuff is changing every 6 months. But where do you see this going?
Well, AI is going to impact the ability to engage with the network on so many different levels. Certainly on our side, we're going to deploy AI in lots of different places to again, drive a ton of efficiency into how we enable partners to operate. But I think, you're going to see a lot of AI from the consumer side, demand generated from the consumer side. You're going to see a lot of MVNO type operators come in with AI as the fundamental baseline of how they bring a proposition to life, so that, today there are MVNOs that have thousands of people that run the company. There's a model out there somewhere that says, you know what, you can run a very successful, large-scaled MVNO with, pick your number of people less than 10 and a really good suite of AI agents across operations, across sales, across your technology distribution, like you name it, you're going to find, a solution via AI. So I think that's going to create a much more compelling reason why people could get involved with the network and become an MVNO and sell wireless services, because literally you could do it with a couple of people and some really good AI.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you can run a whole CSR operation with AI bots, basically. I mean, they're getting so good. They're getting so good and so able to solve problems and converse with people that, yeah, I mean, it's like you just need a couple people.
Yeah. We had an AI competition called the T Challenge that we do together every year with Deutsche Telekom over in Bonn, Germany. And the last couple of years, the focus has been AI and specifically, how can you enhance productivity or a relationship with your customers, or the way you bring value propositions to life on the network by way of AI. And we had over 400 people submit these applications with all these different ideas. We had to whittle it down to about 12 people, and then we had them compete sort of head to head in a pitch competition. But I tell you, the number of things that are just so amazing around how we can manage our own network, how we can manage bringing people onto the network, how those people can manage how they sell and distribute. It is just accelerating. It's exponential, and I think over the course of the next couple of years, it will continue to accelerate. So things are going to be moving really, really fast. And that's to our advantage, because in this business, you want it to be easy and fast and repeatable in terms of getting to market and getting to revenue, right? Those are the big impediments. Getting to scale is the hardest part. So if we can shorten that time frame and make it really, really simple, then you're going to see a lot more people recognizing how to take advantage of that value and accretive value distributed across a much broader part of the segment.
This has been great. I really appreciate you spending time with us, and thanks a lot. And good luck with continuing on the innovation path that you've been on.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mike. I appreciate it. It's been a really good run, and we're so excited about what the future has to offer, and appreciate having some time with you today as well. Thank you.